Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give everybody about 30 more seconds here to get in, and then we'll start today's webinar. If you haven't done so already, grab yourself a cup of coffee or some tea, and we'll have a great presentation here for you, and should be a lot of fun as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Melinda Aiken. I'm the marketing manager here at SiteSeeker. So welcome today. Thank you for joining us, Tea with Tom and guest. Today we have Tom Armitage, digital marketing team lead here at SiteSeeker. And then we also have our special guest. Thank you for joining us, Marissa Valetti. She's from Northland Communications. Happy to have you both here. Today they're going to talk about staying social and making sure that you're still making that human connection, even though we're distant and we're still working together, but can't interact as much as if we were in the office. So with that, I'm going to let Tom and Marissa take it over. And as they're speaking, I encourage you guys to ask questions and we'll let them answer those along the way. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Linda. So last week we had a specific digital marketing focused session where we talked about different digital marketing tactics that you can begin to apply in light of coronavirus and the situation at hand. So for this week, we wanted it to be a little bit lighter and a little bit more applicable to all industries, all verticals, all types of employees. So we're going to talk a little bit about remote work, working from home, keeping your employees engaged throughout this time period. So we have 5 kind of main topics here: stay home, stay distant, stay connected, stay informed, and stay fun. And we'll go through these 5 topics over the next 28 minutes. And Marissa's from one of our partners, Northland Communications, so she's going to offer a little bit of a different perspective than myself, and we'll have a good conversation here. So if we take the first one, staying home, we know that this situation has really caused most companies, especially office workers and white collar jobs and white collar professionals, to now begin working in a remote environment that they may not be used to. Thankfully at SiteSeeker, we have several employees that work remote full time. Melinda is one of those employees. Carl works out of Burlington, Melinda's out of Vegas, Pre's down by DC. And I polled them and they gave me some really good feedback on disciplines that you should employ when you're working from home. And this is definitely something that a lot of companies need to take into consideration, especially if they're normally in an office environment where they're able to interact interpersonally on a daily basis. So a couple of the ideas that we kind of chatted about internally on our side was having a regular routine, waking up at the same time, having the same type of routine that you would have normally if you had to commute and go into the office every day, showering, making breakfast, signing on at the same time every day. And that kind of creates that same familiarity that you normally would have if it was a typical work day where you were going into the office. People that aren't used to working from home all the time, it's very easy to get distracted. I'm such an extrovert that I'm going absolutely insane being in this room all day trying to work and stay productive and stay efficient with my time. So there's so many things that can pull you away from your phone to household chores to making lunch that you normally would either buy or bring. You would have to do that food prep in the midst of the day. So you have to be really disciplined with your time and build out your schedule of when you're going to be working things out and stick to it as best as possible, because so many things can pull you away into other directions. I've even read things on putting your phone in the other room, shutting down your social channels, like logging out of your social channels. So even if your mind wanders and you go to start browsing social, it kind of forces you to have to sign in, and then you're like, oh wait, I shouldn't be doing that right now. And even building into your calendar different breaks, coffee breaks, lunch breaks, quick 5-10 minute phone call with a team member or family member just to kind of break up the day, because you don't have that type of social interactions that you would normally have if you were in the office. And then my last point before I give Marissa a chance to chime in is making sure those in your household, typically your family members, know what your routine is and know you're in work mode throughout the day. My brother works from home remotely. He works for a large insurance company, and my parents, they're baby boomers. They don't really get this lifestyle, so they would like knock on the door at his house and they'd be like, "Hey Joe, what's going on?" And he's like, Mom, I'm working. I'm on the clock right now. Like, you just can't. I can't have small talk right now. Like, what are you doing right now? So it definitely takes some discipline in making sure that those in your household understand that you're in work mode and that you shouldn't be disturbed if you're trying to get work done. You got your head down and you're grinding. So Marissa, what do you think? How's Northland doing with this? I mean, all of your staff right now is remote. So how's everybody taking it?
Yeah, I think like luckily for us, we are used to working remotely, not to this extent, obviously, but at least we have kind of like the tools and technology in place that it wasn't such like a hard transition for us. I'll say for me, because I'm so similar to you, I'm so extroverted that it is hard to not have that human interaction being at home. But I can just get really laser focused on what I'm working on. But something that's worked for me is like taking a walk on my lunch break and just getting out of the house for a second and getting some fresh air. And sometimes that while simultaneously maybe talking to a friend on the phone, like just that stimulation that helps me kind of get my energy up. So that's something that has worked for me. And if the weather allows, I would definitely recommend for everyone to take a break and take a walk.
Hopefully you're staying 6 feet away from the other people that are walking.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. Staying distant. So this is best practice on video conferencing. At SightSeeker, we do a lot of video conferencing. So thankfully, I think we have really good a really good approach to video conferencing, and we understand it. We use it a lot. We're comfortable doing it. Not only with clients and partners, but internally now, all of those interactions and those meetings are now taking place virtually. First thing I'll mention is making sure that all of your employees are using video, because a lot of times if there's people that aren't feeling comfortable, or they might be introverted and they aren't as outgoing and don't like the camera on them, encourage the whole team to be using video, because without that in-person environment that we no longer have in the office setting, it's really easy to feel disconnected from the staff. So you got to make sure that everyone's got the camera turned on and everyone is able to see and feel the connection that exists between the staff and the employees. So then making sure your connectivity, your internet connectivity is perfect before you sign on a few minutes early to your meetings, making sure your audio and video is coming in clearly, making sure that there's an agenda set so you stay within the time frame. It's your typical traditional best practices with meetings, but they're even more important because of the interaction that's lost of not being in person, right? And the last thing I'll mention too is making sure that you're dressed appropriately, professionally. I know most of you that are connected right now are probably in your pajamas still. If you're doing video conferencing, making sure that you look the part, wear what you would normally wear to the office, making sure that your environment around you is clear, is professional, it's not cluttered, it's not messy. Obviously, I have my picture of Eminem here because he's so near and dear to my heart. But we have kind of a laid back style at work, and that's something that's important to me. So Marissa, from a video conferencing standpoint, I know you guys definitely do a lot of video conferencing. What other type of best practice would you say in terms of conducting successful and productive meetings virtually?
Yeah, well, having video on for video conferencing has been like a long-standing rule at Northland. Like nobody gets away with just using their little picture. It's really important for collaborating and being present for virtual meetings. But I'll say just as an example, like our sales team right now, they're 100% remote. So interacting with customers even is completely different now than it was a couple weeks ago. So everyone's reaching out via video conference or even just with a phone call to every single one of our customers right now. And we're trying to help them out by, like you said, making sure they have a good connection at home. So we're increasing their bandwidth right now at no charge to kind of help them out on that front, and also offering some free tools, which I'll get into a little bit later. But it's really crazy how much technology can help us right now. Like it would be a completely different story right now if we didn't have all of these tools and resources available to us. So it's really kind of cool if you think about it.
Are you finding that a lot of your prospects or a lot of your customers that you're getting on virtual meetings with are turning their video on? Are they productive meetings? Are they receiving it the way that you intend them to?
Yeah, from what I hear, I mean, Jim actually had an interview yesterday, our president, Jim McCarthy, and he said that one of the biggest things, people cannot be intimidated by this technology. It really is easy to use. And as soon as you start using it, you'll just get better and better at it. So the biggest piece of advice from him was don't be intimidated by the technology.
Yeah,
So we're really trying to help our customers like ease into it and hold their hand through it and let them know that everything's going to be okay and they're going to get the hang of it.
I definitely feel like this is forcing the companies that maybe were lagging behind with upgrading to technology or deploying certain software. And hopefully they see the benefit and the value of it, and it remains permanent from here on out. Which segues us really nicely into the third topic, which is on software in particular. So I kind of have three kind of nested topics here. We got chat tools, project management tools, and video conferencing tools, right? So just briefly on each chat, we use Slack. Yammer is another popular one. I decided in that moment to combine them. Slack is a really good tool. It's a super fast, super efficient instant messaging tool that you use within the confines of your company. You can add external users, and they can only see certain channels. So there is ways to bring in vendors or other type of partners into it. There's file sharing that you can do. It's really great with integrating into really other popular systems and software like Google Calendar, other types of PM tools. Highly recommend Slack. It's super efficient, super fast, and mostly it's at SiteSeeker, it's cut down considerably on the number of internal emails that we send. And just by nature, just traditionally the way that we prepare emails with a salutation and a greeting, with a closing, with as much detail as possible, it's so much faster to bring that into Slack, into an instant messaging tool, with all of that history being retained within. So we love it, and it's been super efficient for us. Project management and task management tools. I could probably do multiple sessions just on this topic alone, because we went through a heavy research and deployment phase to a couple of years ago to decide on the one that we use here at SiteSeeker, which is Reich. There's other popular tools like Asana, Basecamp. Trello is more task management rather than more complex project management. But those are really great tools to take your to-do list, take everyone's to-do list inside of the company, and kind of bring it to life. Allow for collaboration and change management to exist within the platform itself. So there's a history of all of those changes being made to the tasks, to the projects, especially complex projects. And it allows files to be stored there, any sort of approvals to take place within the system itself. And it's really provided a lot of value for us to be effective and efficient with managing our projects and bringing them from start to finish within surrounding deadlines and the amount of hours that we need to associate with those projects. So that's been really wonderful for us. And then lastly, video conferencing. You're obviously using GoToMeeting right now. There's a lot of popular solutions out there. I know, my daughter, from a school perspective, uses Zoom. Her school and her teacher sets up Zoom meetings with all the students. They've had really good luck with that. And of course, there's Skype. And you need to decide on the best fit tool for you and your organization, keeping your partners and your vendors and your customers in mind in case they need to use it as well. You want to make it easy for them to use and be able to sign on and have those video meetings. And I'll turn over to Marissa, because obviously Northland has its own software, and it's a really great tool.
Yeah, so Accession is Northland's video conferencing and phone software. And before I even say another thing about it, I just want to let this group know that we're offering it completely free right now, no contracts, no strings whatsoever. We just want to do our part to help businesses through this. And this is the best way that we know how to do that, is through our technology. So Accession is the video conferencing and phone software that our team uses internally. It's very similar to Zoom. I know many of you are familiar with Zoom, and it's actually built on the same exact platform. So at first glance, it looks exactly like Zoom, but some benefits of using Accession is that it's actually comparable to the Zoom Pro, which is the paid platform. And again, this is completely free for Accession. So just a couple main points. You can host up to 100 participants in any given meeting. So a lot of those free options, they cap you at a handful of participants, but with ours, you can host up to 100 people. There's no meeting time limits. I know some of those other free ones, they cap you at 30 or 40 minutes, but with this one, you can meet for as long as you want. In addition to the video conferencing, you actually get a soft phone, which is essentially a phone that sits on your computer's desktop. and on your mobile phone. And it makes it really easy to like access all of your colleagues. Everybody's contact info is in that same spot. You can instant message. And it's a little bit more secure for your employees, so they don't have to give out a personal phone number. So that's another benefit of Accession. Not to mention that it sits on our local servers right at Northland, and it's backed by our local team. And if you have a concern or if you're having trouble with it, you can call and another person will be on the other line ready to help you with that. And like I told you, we're offering, training. So where some people might be a little bit intimidated to adopt this new technology, our team has been working diligently to develop some training resources. They're doing, demos of the product. They're doing webinars and things like that to kind of get your team onboarded and get them used to using this technology. So again, this is completely free. Our success is directly tied to all these local businesses keeping up and running during this time. So we just want to help you guys in the best way that we know how, and technology is the name of our game. So be sure to reach out to us if you want to learn more. I'm sure Tom will link the information to our website, but it's northland.net, and it's really quick and easy to get set up. So keep that in mind as an option. Again, that's called Accession.
Yeah, I like the tool. We use it when we have meetings, obviously with Northland, when they set the meetings up. I like how familiar it is to the other popular platforms that exist out there. It makes sense if it was built kind of around the whole interface with Zoom, because it's familiar, and the learning curve for it is really simple. So yeah, we have productive meetings using that. Regardless if you're using Accession or GoToMeeting or Zoom, it's really great and in your best interest as a company to follow those best practices that we discussed around conducting video meetings, making sure that your connection is at an all-time high, so you're not failing, whether video or audio during those meetings, because all those type of breaks are going to lead to unproductive and unsuccessful meetings, and just kind of add to the stresses that exist right now within the world. So let's go to the next one. Staying informed. This is where we kind of hit specifically on coronavirus and how it's impacting companies. There's a lot of worry right now among all the challenges that are taking place, given these circumstances, and that goes for both leaders all the way down to kind of the worker bees. And honestly, the worker bees are probably just as more nervous, or maybe even more nervous, because of potential layoffs and other type of concerns that are coming about because of coronavirus and its impacts. So it's really important for leaders within your organizations to be meeting often, and being as transparent as possible with how the coronavirus is affecting all individuals within your company, and making sure they know company plans moving forward of how you're going to be handling it. So at SiteSeeker, we've set up kind of this crisis management team, and we're meeting every day at the end of the day. Since there's obviously news and current events that are changing on a daily basis, we have to meet often, and we're discussing how any of those current events are affecting SiteSeeker directly. And then what happens is our president, Matt Ford, then begins to gather all those notes, and the very next morning he's putting out briefs that go out to all employees at the company. So everyone is staying on the same page at all times, and we just cranked up the transparency so that no one is in the dark and no one is nervous about what's happening and how it's affecting SiteSeeker. I've even read that a good resource is to build this truth Bible, this truth book, where the leaders put together popular Q&As of questions that are being asked throughout the entire organization, and build one single source of that information, of those answers, so that way you can always add to it as more questions are being asked within the company. But there's one single resource that all employees can go to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, how the company's affected, where we're going from here, and what the plans are to kind of approach the changes that are taking place throughout the world. As far as from a little bit of a social standpoint, which we'll talk more in the fifth bullet point, but there's obviously dollars that may be being spent in some areas that you hadn't really expected, but there's certainly dollars being saved with expenses that are no longer being used because you're not in person anymore. The first one that comes to mind is kind of social budgets, outings, retreats, happy hours, food that you typically might order for the office. So what are you going to do with those dollars? Obviously, if there's a need to spend them in areas that need to be spent, to keep your staff or to keep the lights on, then you need to spend it there first. But if you have these free dollars, consider putting that towards other types of employee wellness programs sending health and hygiene products to your folks inside of their homes, hiring a wellness expert or nutritionalist and having them do a virtual session on educating them and helping employees, stay well, stay healthy, and become more educated on what those practices might be, or possibly even shifting those dollars to goodwill efforts. So that way the company as a whole feels good about, saving those dollars from a social, a happy hour standpoint. You're no longer spending it on food or drinks, but you're shifting it and maybe, helping out the elderly or the sick in your community. So the company as a whole feels good about those changes. So transparency is everything. Meet often, pick the right leaders in your organization who can provide value inside of those conversations, and making sure the whole company feels connected and feels informed and feels like they know what's going on. So Marissa, you and I, we spoke about an hour ago, and you said that your company has approached this in a similar way, and I love what Jim, your CEO, is doing too.
Yeah, so similar to SiteSeeker, I mean, our executive team is meeting pretty much every single day to kind of reassess all the new information that's coming out and make sure that we have, all the tools and resources that we need. So daily HR updates are coming out, but I think one of the things that has really touched me the most is that Jim has taken the time, our president, Jim McCarthy, has taken the time to talk to almost like every single employee. So just having those one-on-one conversations, like I think that really means the world to people that they may be worried, they're not sure, like, how this is going to impact the local economy, how this is going to impact their job. And having that one-on-one conversation, it means the world to people. So I would say, just from a leadership standpoint, I mean, aside from Jim just being the most genuine, nice guy, I mean, taking the time to do that really means the world to your employees.
I like that he's choosing to do it in a one-on-one fashion too, because there's obviously sensitive topics that come up because of this, with either health or pay, salaries. So that's a really good plan on his part to connect, either by phone or virtually with every employee to make sure they feel comfortable asking those questions, because they might not feel comfortable if it was a team meeting. So that's really cool. All right, last one, stay fun. There's a lot of stress going on. A lot of people are feeling isolated. A lot of people are having difficulties with not having those social interactions. So you have to employ different practices and different activities in this virtual capacity that you're able to hold things right now, to keep things light, keep things fun, and keep people motivated. So a couple things that we're doing at SiteSeeker, we're doing joined virtual lunches every day. So normally people would kind of go to lunch whenever they had built it in their schedule, or I guess whenever they felt hungry. Whenever it hits 12 o'clock, I'm like, oh, gotta eat, because my body is like that. But every day we're having a scheduled lunchtime where all of us get on the same call, video call, and we're having lunch, and we're just kind of talking about non-work related things, because normally those things happen just naturally, organically, as you're walking through the office or when you go to grab a cup of coffee, and they're not happening now. So we have to force it. We have to make sure that we're having those social interactions. So we did a themed one yesterday. It was funny hat day, and I wore Toadstool's hat from Super Mario. That got some laughs. I know Matt had this sombrero. I kept forgetting what the name of those Mexican hats are, but everybody had a different hat on, and they had to provide like a story behind it of how they got it and why they were wearing it. So that was pretty fun. We also did a virtual happy hour last Friday. We grabbed a couple drinks at the end of the day, and we played some board games online. That was a lot of fun. Another kind of lighthearted one that I read about, we haven't employed it yet, but I'd love to, is people creating Spotify playlists around different types of work activities. So you might create one for proofreading, or create one to brainstorm and get creative, and then allowing members of the team to help curate that playlist. And that way you guys can be feeling connected, that you're using the same type of playlist, listening to the same music, and commenting and collaborating around that too. So I'm a big music fan, so I thought that one was really cool. I've also read about companies doing joint yoga sessions in the morning before work, virtually, just connected online, doing exercise routines, book and movie clubs. And I even read about this one where it's a bedtime story virtual meeting, where at the end of the night, those employees that have children are reading bedtime stories to the other folks and the other children that their coworkers have. So I thought that was really cool as well. Marissa, what are you guys doing at Northland to kind of keep things light with all the pressures right now?
Yeah, so similar to you guys, we're doing calls every day. So we're doing a kickoff call first thing in the morning, and then a wrap-up call at the end of the day. And I think that's really kind of just helped us all like stay in the loop with one another and know what each other is working on and kind of just share ideas and share like feedback that we've gotten from customers. But as far as fun stuff, so on each of those calls, we share or we do an icebreaker of some sort. So on each different call, like a different team member is kind of tasked with coming up with a fun icebreaker. So the one that we did yesterday actually was for everybody to go and find their old prom pictures. So that was really fun. Everybody went and found their prom pictures, and it's been like the ongoing joke that Accession, very similar to Zoom again. The video conferencing looks like Hollywood Squares. People are just over the moon that it reminds them of Hollywood Squares. So one of our team members, Stacy, actually put together this whole like game show around the basis of Hollywood Squares with all these prom pictures. And this morning we guessed like who was who, and everyone you got right was a certain amount of points. So just little things like that have helped boost everyone's spirits and kind of get in a good mood first thing in the morning. So it's been really awesome, and people have been getting really creative.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you said it's the little things, because that's really what it is. It might seem trivial, but just to break out the day, give people a chance to relax, not think about work, not think about what's going on in the world right now. It makes a big difference, especially if you stay consistent and you do it every day or small things every day or some of these things every week. That way we can look forward to something light and not really worry about some of the other pressures that are taking place right now. So that's the wrap up. We're going to send the full article around this, as well as the recorded version of this, so you guys can watch it again if you enjoyed your time here over the past 25 minutes, or feel free to share it with your colleagues or your social networks as well. So Melinda, let us know if there's any questions that came through, and we could spend the last few minutes here addressing those.
Yeah, we didn't have any questions today. We did have some comments. Hello from Syracuse. So hello to you guys as well. And they love the idea of the truth book. So that was a good suggestion as well. But we haven't had any questions. And I did let everyone know that we will be also sharing the tools and technologies that we talked about, whether it be Slack or some of those that you had mentioned in the follow-up email as well.
Awesome. If there's anything you guys need, feel free to write myself or Marissa, and you'll obviously have some of this material in your inboxes soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.